Welcome in everybody to Girl, How'd You Get That Gig? I'm Amy G, and just like we celebrated Mother's Day by having my mom join us, we're now in June, which puts the spotlight on Father's Day. And when it comes to dads, I'm a little bit biased because, well, mine's the best. We have never had a male guest on before,
Ooh,
but if anyone can break the mold, Dad, it's you. So thanks for being here.
bet.
All right. So, why are we interviewing my dad? Well, I think my dad has a lot to do with why I love sports. Maybe everything. And my podcast partner, Celeste, who's on assignment, and I thought it would be really fun, Dad, to get educational, motivated, to hear your thoughts on women in sports from a male perspective, but also just from your perspective as my father and how you've been involved, how your personal thoughts have evolved over time, and basically why you're so supportive of female athletes. So I think we should do some background and your athletic background. But you didn't have athletic parents. Grandma and grandpa weren't, what we would consider gamers. Um, but you were a phenomenal athlete yourself. So what do you remember about being introduced to sports and why do you think you connected with it?
I'm really not sure, honey.
Really?
I remember distinctly going to Little League tryouts when I was 8 years old and learned that you couldn't be on the team at 8, so you had to be 9.
Oh.
But I loved playing, and I was pretty good even as a little kid, and so this one of the managers asked my dad if he'd let me be the bat boy for that team, and they were the Seven Uppers, and then and that was the start. I just remember that distinctly because that was the first thing that we could do that was organized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you remember, you grew up in Southern California. Unfortunately, my dad is a Dodgers fan. It's one of his very few flaws. Um, but do you remember the first professional sporting event you attended, or do you remember that vibe of going to a Dodgers game? I don't think you got to go that often, but I know you did go.
Oh, I remember absolutely. I remember going distinctly to a doubleheader. It
Mm-hmm.
was the Dodgers against the Milwaukee Braves, and
Mm-hmm.
Warren Spahn was the pitcher, and Don Drysdale was one of the pitchers that day. And yeah, that's a distinct memory that I have. That was probably the first early professional game I went to. I'd been to
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sports events. My dad was a high school teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and I went everywhere with him. And when he was the band teacher. But
Mm-hmm.
that at the time, the band always performed at the football games.
Right, the field
So
shows.
I
Mm-hmm.
got a deep introduction to football as a very young boy, and then basketball. And because the band would set up the pep band in the corner of the gym, um, I would get to sit on the bench with the players, and I just thought I
Mm-hmm.
was in seventh heaven.
Seventh heaven. Well, I remember that. We'll get to that. Me sitting in the dugout with your team for sure. Do you think, even though you're like, I guess I want to know your thoughts on your parents not really having an athletic background, but grandma especially loved baseball. She was a huge baseball fan. And did you feel sports, even though your dad was, very heavily into music and he was a band teacher and he was a performer and a musician and all of those things? It seems like they always had an appreciation for athletics too. And do you feel that that was a bonding experience for your family? I mean, Aunt Linda, your sister, we don't even know if she owns a pair of tennis shoes, but she'll go to a game. Like she's game to do it.
Yeah. No, I don't think it was so much a bonding experience. There was kind of a skip generation there, because my grandfather on my father's side was a baseball coach, and my grandfather on my mother's side played on a semi-pro team,
Hmm.
and then they just really didn't play. I mean, my mom would have, I think, had there been women's sports at the time. So,
Hmm.
growing up in the late 30s and
Hmm.
40s, and she played some basketball and used to tell the funny stories about the different rules that were in women's basketball.
Right.
Um, but other than that, no, she didn't play, and my dad really didn't play.
But she loved to watch you play.
Oh, absolutely.
right?
They
Yeah, she
loved the
came to all your
game.
games. Yeah.
Came to all of my games. Very
Hmm.
supportive. It was just something that, their kid loved and they supported it. No, it's
Yeah.
sort of no matter what it is. It could have been music, could have been art.
Hmm. So, speaking about grandma and playing basketball, and she would share about the different rules that they had for girls, is kind of the perfect segue into the next question, which is really wanting you to set the scene for what sports was like for women and girls in the 50s and 60s when you grew up. We talked to mom and got her perspective, but I'd love to just kind of get your memory of what it was like for women and girls. Were there teams in high school? Did you know anybody, any females that played sports? What was that like, or was that rare?
Extremely rare.
Mm,
It just, you didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it because it wasn't there. There weren't opportunities for girls at the time. And I mean, nothing like today where you can kind of choose the sport that you want to be in. But you didn't think about it because people didn't do it. I
mm.
mean, the boys played, and that's the way it was.
Well, at some point it started to turn
It did.
and be questioned. And I feel like you were very progressive, not just in women playing sports. And, you ended up having a daughter that loved it, which I'm sure we'll get into. And that probably had a big impact on how you felt about opportunity for women. But, you had this progressive mindset with mom, and she shared, how lucky she felt that you really encouraged mom to continue with college and get her degree. And that was in the late 70s, early 80s. And it's a little bit outside of the pocket of women in sports, but it certainly is the larger picture of equality for women. And you saw it in your own marriage and within your own family. What do you attest that to? Why do you think you knew that was important?
I went to a wonderful university and grew up understanding what women could do and was exposed to women that were well educated and could achieve everything that a man could do. And it just kind of seemed so natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I was pushed along the way as well. When my first job
Sure.
was at the Bank of America, and it was I think the year that the uh, it, forget exactly what they called it, but it was a decree that women had to be placed into
Mm.
management positions. And so that became the norm.
A
It was,
quota.
you can like it or not like it, but that's the way it's going to be. So you might as well get on board.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go back to, I think, what you were referring to in the mid 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
There began to develop girls softball,
Mm-hmm.
and I happened to have a good friend that played on one of my teams, and his mom was responsible for the Parks and Recreation Department and hiring the umpires for that. And so I got hired that
Oh,
to umpire girls softball. And I think
okay.
at the time they were probably little league age, probably 8 to 12,
Mm-hmm.
and got and then I raked the fields and lined the bases, but it was great. It was fun, and
Mm-hmm.
I got real exposure to that, and clearly, as there are every year, there were those girls that stood out and were really natural and
Mm-hmm.
loved it, and
Mm-hmm.
others that kind of wish they were at another place. But uh,
Yes, that's probably always the case for
that's on
athletes. Yeah,
every
it's
team
every team.
everywhere, man
Yeah,
or
no,
woman.
no matter the gender, for sure. Do you have as sports started to evolve for women, and I feel like the 70s was this massive change, right? With Title IX being
Probably.
passed, and I really feel like tennis started to become an area where women progressed and were seen as elite athletes. They started to be paid. Billie Jean King, a huge, proponent of all of that and reason for all of that. Billie Jean King's who comes to mind for me. Who who do you recollect uh, as a female athlete that impressed you? Like, what's the first professional female athlete that you can remember? Whoa, she's good. Because I know you didn't mention your university. I will. My dad went to Stanford, where sports was elite, and you've continued to be a fan and a season ticket holder, and you go to the women's games just as much as you go to the men's games because I know how impressed you are by the level of athleticism and fundamentals that you see in women's sports. But what do you like? Who do you remember? Like, whoa, she's someone to watch.
The one that really comes to me, and this is crazy because I don't remember her last name now, but
Okay.
she was Cheryl, and her brother was Reggie,
Oh
and
yeah, uh,
um, he was on
Miller,
the
Cheryl and Reggie
Cheryl
Miller.
Miller,
She was so
and
good.
she was. The funny story was Reggie said to a couple of his friends, "Me and my sister will play you guys," and they
Yeah.
thought, "Oh yeah, okay." And I guess they cleaned their clock, but Cheryl Miller was real. Just a tremendous basketball player
She
and
was.
a mile ahead of her
Mm-hmm.
peers.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I used to do at the time is I was subscribed to my mom got me the Sports Illustrated magazine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that started to introduce women and those that were successful,
Mm-hmm.
not only in tennis and golf, which were really the only ones there, but then when the Olympics came and they
Mm-hmm.
would feature track people and then basketball, and it just grew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. I did this to mom. I said, now we're going to talk about me. Ready?
I know you.
So I know you know me, but how do you think having me affected your thoughts on not just women in sports, but gender equality in general?
Oh, I think when you have a daughter, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be equal.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta. A lot changed for me then.
Yeah.
Because you talk about it, but you don't live it. And when you've got a daughter that wants to do something, whether it's sports or anything else,
Mm-hmm.
she should be able to do it just like everybody else. So,
Did
yeah,
you see that in me early?
I
Me
did
what?
because you liked it. You loved
Uh,
sports.
yeah.
You were a lot like me in a way, in that you
I'm
just
just like my
enjoyed it.
dad.
You liked to be there. You'd play catch, and it didn't matter if it wasn't the perfect throw. And if we were playing the football with football, you'd be there with us, and you wanted to be involved, and you
Yeah.
liked the little bit of competition that's there, and can I run a little faster
Mm-hmm.
than some of the other kids that are out there? And you always saw your brother was playing, and so you just like dropped into it naturally, and that was fun
Yeah.
to see that and to be part of that, and
You
hopefully to promote it.
you missed my Revenge of the Nerds mention, just like my dad.
There you go.
Just like my dad. Do you remember, Dad, when I was formulating the questions for this, I had so much fun thinking back on my childhood and how much sports was a part of our world, whether it was the Little League games, which felt every night. They weren't every night, but there was either practice or a game several
Yeah.
times a week and late dinners and often breakfast for dinner. And I loved all of that. But one memory that came to mind was our street
Mhm.
and all of our neighbors. And we would have football games in the street. And
Yeah.
you always had to have me on your team because no one else probably wanted the little girl. It was all these like teenage boys. Like
Yeah.
I remember Carlos and a couple guys down Billy, like down the street. It all came back to me. They loved to be around you. You were this very young dad, very active. But I vividly remember being in the huddle and you had your hand and you'd be like, all right, Amy, you're gonna go to the right and you're gonna cut and I'm gonna fake it to you, but I'm gonna throw it to Mike or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm the decoy. I got it. But like, what do you recall from that's my memory, and you always say I exaggerate everything, but I just felt like we had this really fun street and I never felt like I didn't belong there. And I guess I'm curious if you felt you had to put effort into making me feel like I belonged or it's just I just fit in because you were like, yeah, she's playing.
Nah, I don't think I had to work at it at all. It was just you wanted to be there. We were playing, and we'd take whoever would play. You just
I
you need
would,
enough to have on each team. So
yeah, yeah.
if you
Um,
even that out, everybody loves to have you.
well, I can even remember we had a pool growing up for those listening, and we had this cool rock that you jumped off of, the diving rock. We didn't have a diving board, we had a rock. And it was big and flat, and jumped into the deep end. And you would sit, it felt like hours. It was probably 10 minutes. But we would jump and you would throw the ball at us. And we'd try to catch it. And I was always so proud of myself if I caught it after Michael
Yeah.
had caught it, or there was always this kind of trying to improve my skills around you. And I can remember you always saying, it's not that hard. Just throw it, right? It's just throw it to my glove. It's not that hard. And you simplified everything. And I really appreciated that because I've never felt from you that I shouldn't be there. So a little moment of gratitude for that. I want to ask you to tell this story. It's one that I'm so proud to tell, but it should come from you, which was in Petaluma when we first moved here. Around when we first moved here is what I recall from the story. I was too little. There was the boys' club,
Mm.
and you were trying to be involved in the community and got involved, but I believe you were actively involved in changing the name, and I hope that you would share that story.
Sure, it's a simple one. I joined the boys club, and then as what happens with a lot of organizations, not a lot of people want to step up. They're glad to be part of it, but they asked me to be president after the second year, I think, and um, so we were trying to raise money and have the boys club at the time in Petaluma had girls could come in and participate in many of the things, but it wasn't official.
Mm-hmm.
And we were funded by one of our big funding sources was the United Way of the Bay Area,
Mm-hmm.
and we felt that this was the time to make a move to add girls to the name, and so
Mm-hmm.
that it would be the Boys and Girls Club of Petaluma. And as a result of that, they loved it, and we got a great big check that year for being one of the innovators. I'm not sure we were the first. I really don't know that, but we were the first around here, and it
Mm-hmm.
was the first time for Petaluma for sure, to make that all inclusive. And from that time on, it's been equal programming for all boys and girls.
And the equal title, the Boys and
An
Girls
equal title,
Club.
yeah. I mean, that's one thing to have to play under the boys' club, even though
Yeah.
you were on the team. So
Yeah.
that made a big deal.
Yeah. Who knew I would end up working in the Boys Club too, my whole career. You played sports for a long time in my childhood. You played basketball, and I remember you playing softball. You played on a men's team, but you also played on a co-ed team for work.
Mhm.
And I'm curious if that experience playing with women uh, broadened your perspective even more. And because I know you've always just had such respect for women who could play, and you've always thought it was important that it goes on my resume, and you never know who you can meet, and it's a way to network, and it's a way to bond. Like there's so many benefits of being able to play sports if you can, and you had the opportunity. What was your experience like when you first started playing co-ed softball?
Oh, I think it was great. We had so much fun. The problem always was you had to have three women, a minimum
Mm-hmm.
of three women on the team, and there just weren't that many that wanted to play. And
Mm-hmm.
so anybody that wanted to play was welcome on our team. And we happened to have some really good
You had good,
players as
you did.
well.
You did.
And it always was just a pleasure to
Mm-hmm.
when somebody when a woman would play and was really good. They really stood out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always a pleasure to be part of that. But also those that were being good sports and trying to, they were willing to fill in the number three person. they got a lot of love too because
Hmm.
they didn't really want to be there, but they were doing it for the team, and that's what you have
Yeah.
to do in life
Yeah,
sometimes.
right. Yeah.
Take it for
You,
the team.
take one for the team. Yeah. Rub it. You're going to be fine. Just walk it
Yep.
off. You coach me in softball in junior high.
Hmm.
Real fun age for girls and for parents. And up until then, you had only coached Michael in boys baseball. What was that transition like for you? What do you remember about that?
Big transition.
I
But
just,
easy,
yeah,
easy. But it was a huge transition, just because the skills weren't there. And
yeah.
by the time I stopped coaching the boys, I mean they were 14 and 15 years old, and they were really really good baseball players.
Hmm.
And so we went to softball because I don't know that you didn't have a coach, but I
You,
wanted to do it. I
yeah,
wanted to be
yeah.
part of it, and with a friend of mine and a dad of one of your friends,
Hmm.
and it just was a big transition. And two little stories I remember that'll
Are
will
you
tell
going to
you
tell the mascara story?
where I'm coming from. Is there was one girl that wouldn't didn't want to wear the helmet. And I said, well, why don't you want to wear the helmet? Well, because I have these earrings on and it hurts when I put it over. So that's something I had never had to deal with before. And
And I just got my ears pierced and I can't take them out. Like, I mean, it can go many
yeah.
layers. Yeah.
And another girl, I asked her to catch, and she said, I really can't catch today. And I, reluctantly asked why not. And she said, my pants are just too tight. I can't get down.
Well, and that's telling because we didn't have uniforms. We had
Yeah.
t-shirts.
Yeah, but this was
And
practice, so I
I
mean,
know, but even in the games, we wore jeans. We
yeah,
wore jeans and t-shirts. That's how we played. There was no uniform. There was nothing to be stretchy to play in. Nobody suggested leggings or, sweats. It was jeans. We all wore
yeah,
jeans. With the story I remember is your frustration with one of the players because she had so much mascara on her eyes. I think you were like, I don't I don't understand how can you see the ball through all of that? Like there's so much mascara. And
yeah,
she was like, "Yeah, I can see it. I'm fine. They don't
yeah.
stick together at all." Yeah, different problems,
So there were
different.
some differences, but we struggled
Oh,
through.
you did. You did a great job. In general, this isn't a general question. How would you describe what it was like watching watching me play sports?
Oh, it's very, very satisfying.
Oh, well, I thought you were gonna be like very, very frustrating.
No, 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 no. I loved watching you. I got to not
You
every
got
one
to,
of your games like your
yeah,
mom did, but I
yeah.
got to
You
a
got to
lot
a
of them.
lot. Hmm.
And uh, yeah, it's very rewarding. I mean, you were a fighter. You struggled. I mean, you were on varsity when you were a freshman, and as a result, you were one of the not necessarily one of the shortest, but you were one of the skinniest ones out there. And I distinctly remember you getting whacked around in one of
Yeah.
the early basketball games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Which I,
it didn't deter you. You said,
yeah.
"I'm not going to let that happen to me again," and uh,
Yeah.
you took it on. So I mean, yeah, to watch and to see how you progressed, and you'd never had a lot of these kids today they're playing sports since they're 5 years old, and they got coaches, private coaches, and they're on travel teams, and we didn't do any of that. We didn't
No.
really have the kind of money to be able to do
Yeah.
that, but I'm not
Yeah.
even sure it was available like it is today. But the fact of the matter, my point is, you didn't have any of that, and
Yeah.
you were bold enough to say, I want to play volleyball. You'd never played volleyball before, so maybe in gym class,
Yeah.
and you took that on, and you were on the varsity team, and then you moved to softball, and you're on the varsity team, and you moved to basketball.
Yeah. Well, I just told this story recently in a keynote speech that I delivered. The basketball stories, one of the funnest stories of my childhood. But back to volleyball really fast. You're the reason I played volleyball. I don't know if you remember this conversation because I had played soccer all childhood and we had one soccer team in high school, varsity. And there were several of us in my grade that were very good because we had played since we were little, 6 or 7 years old. Carrie, Christy, Betsy all come to mind. And there were only so many spots for freshmen to make varsity. And I was really stressed out about it. And you said, what about volleyball? Now, I don't know if that came from you not wanting to sit outside on cold nights in Petaluma to watch me play soccer and it was strategic, but you said that, and I think I got to play in seventh grade, and then sports were cut from our junior high and eighth grade.
Yeah.
So I did not get to play. And Michael, my brother, for those who don't know, got involved in the conversation and went to the volleyball coach who he was friends with. He was a senior in high school, and it was the gym teacher, Miss Payne. And he came back and he said, if you're serious about playing volleyball, Miss Payne said, if you can bump the ball 100 times without dropping it, you have a good shot at making the team. So I went out in front of our yard in eighth grade and I'm bumping, bumping, bumping. And that's when I started. They had a boys team at CASA, my high school, that I was going to. I was in eighth grade. I was heading into high school. And she invited me to come start playing with them. And it's all because you said, what about volleyball?
Yeah.
So I
Well, you
tried
see,
it.
coaches love kids like that.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you had the skills.
Hmm.
If you got the tenacity to go out and
So
bump
true.
100 times, that's the boy or girl
Hmm.
I want on my team. They're going to
Absolutely.
do just fine.
Yeah.
They might not have the skills today, but that's why we practice, and
Yep.
that's why you keep at it, and you just love a kid. One of the most endearing terms that you could say about a young person is they're coachable. And that
Yes.
just means they listen and they'll try to do what you
Hmm.
suggest. And sometimes it doesn't work and they develop their own ways, but they're coachable. They'll go along with it. They're pliable and love being with kids that want to do that.
Well, and what would you say about that skill set translating into life? Because you were in a position in your career that you hired people.
Sure.
And how much weight did being coachable play in a decision to hire someone?
No, almost zero difference. That's what
That's
you
what you're
do
looking for.
in a team. That's the kind
Hmm.
of person you
Hmm.
want. They may not have had that skill or majored in that academic endeavor, but they're willing to do it. They've got the know-how underneath, and if they
Hmm.
just are with the right mentor or are in the job long enough, they're going to learn to do that. But they want to do it. They want to provide what the company is requiring, and they'll do anything to make that happen.
Hmm. This might be a little bit redundant off of what you just said, but I'm kind of narrowing it down a little bit. I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think playing sports gave me. You've had a front row seat to watch this wild and crazy career of mine covering the San Francisco Giants for a long time, the run that they went on. None of it was really planned. I was kind of like, I wanted to work in television, and then this is kind of what happened, right? And I went with it. But what do you think having an athletic background, how do you think having an athletic background helped me in my career from your point of view?
Well, in the early days after you graduated, when you didn't really have anything in front of you,
But I didn't have a
um,
job.
but you had a world. You had a world in front of you, and you
Yeah.
had you had an education that was going to serve you well, no matter what you did. But
Hmm.
in those days, I think being wanting to go forward to picking the spot that you wanted. You said you wanted to be in television, and I knew at the time that that wasn't going to pay you any money at all, and um, you still wanted it, and so you were determined that that was going to be, and I think your stick to itiveness is what paved the way for you to do as well as you've done, hon. Um, it would
Do,
have it would have been easy to stop. Would have been easy to go take
hmm.
a different type of job or a different path.
Hmm.
But you had your mind set on it, and it's not the only teacher in life, but sports certainly helped along that way to uh, give you the skill, the mental skills now,
Mm-hmm.
not the physical skills, but the mental
Mm-hmm.
skills to process that and understand what you want to do and where you want to go and what's going to need to have to happen. And everything
Mm-hmm.
builds on blocks. And you've got to take one step before you take the next one and learn different things. So I think it gave you a great perspective of stick to itiveness,
Mm-hmm.
teamwork, doing your homework, going to like
Research.
just like going to practice and
Mm-hmm.
doing it over and over and over again until you got it down to where you feel good about it, where
Mm-hmm.
the best that you can do.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, I remember when you just said, and I knew you weren't going to make any money. Uh, I remember telling you and mom that I got the job at Channel 50, and it was for a part-time morning show producer. And I had to be there at 3 in the morning for $8 an hour with no benefits.
Yeah.
And what I remember is you go, "Ugh." And mom goes, "This is great. I think this is great." And, you went into dad mode. You were like, how are you going to afford rent and, you know, health benefits? And mom's just like, oh, she'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But it's interesting that, because I remember not focusing on the reality of the situation. I was just excited that I got this job in television, but that side of you came in and said, you also got to have this, and I think
Mm.
that helped balance where I was going, but it was a little bit
That
telling that
that
I
was
was,
$8. That was $8 more than you were getting at some of your internships, though.
oh yeah,
You
all the
know.
internships were free. I know, but I just remember your concern was really more about real life stuff,
Yeah.
like rent and bills and
Yeah.
because you were done. You were done carrying me.
Well,
But it worked out and
you get
yeah.
down, you get down 4-0, and it's the eighth inning, and what are you going to do? You
Yeah.
got to get a runner on base is the
Yeah.
first thing you got to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, um taking it to another generation, what would you describe watching your granddaughter Grace play sports was like for you?
That was easier than watching you. Didn't feel
Why?
didn't
Why?
feel didn't feel nearly as responsible. You know, you
Yes.
were your offspring. You have a direct relationship with my granddaughter. It was just a pleasure to watch her and
Hmm.
be part of it, and not everybody gets to do that. And so to see that, and also to see how as much as it's changed, how it doesn't
Oh,
change.
yeah. Yeah. But so much changed with Grace. Like even just having fans in the stands. They
Yeah,
had fans.
yeah,
When I played, it was like you and mom were
yeah,
always there. It was
yeah.
a spattering of folks that came to watch us. And so I love seeing that change for myself now.
Mm.
You and I have had pretty long discussions about change in society. And something that you've taught me is there is change. It's just not fast.
Yeah.
Change doesn't come fast. And
But
if you
also
could,
that's the environment around it. And
hmm
what I was really referring to was the feeling that
hmm
she had playing was probably the same as what I had and the
yeah,
same as that you had. And being out there and wanting to compete and
hmm
do well for yourself, for your
hmm
schoolmates. I mean that's very important. You can poo-poo it and say, well, it doesn't really matter, but it's true, and
it
that's
does
what they want
matter.
to do. And I think that good feeling about being on a team and striving for first, and then reaching goals is just you can't. It's a wonderful life lesson.
It is. And it's really there's not a lot of feelings that compare to it, how you feel when you are able to achieve something with the team. I got two more for you. You doing okay, Dad?
Doing
He
good.
he didn't get these questions beforehand, you guys. He's doing okay. How, okay, Mom said you and I are so close because we're just like each other. And she said,
You and I being you and mom?
Mom said you and me are so close
Oh, okay.
because we're like each other. And she immediately went to competitiveness. You know, you're
Mhm.
competitive like your father. How do you think sports has impacted our relationship?
Um, I think it's been great. I think it's given us something to always talk about and be on
Hmm.
common ground. There's common knowledge. I mean, you're so much more knowledgeable about the things that were going on with the San Francisco Giants than I ever would be. And but it was fascinating for me. So for you to be
Oh.
able to talk to me about it and tell me about it and share what's going on and I could relate to that.
Hmm.
I think the fact that you played, you can understand that part of it, and I think we share that. Um, I don't know. I love sports, and I think the it has a real big part of our world, and
Hmm.
those that are involved in it, I think, in a general sense,
Hmm.
are really good citizens and have learned a lot.
All right. Best piece of advice that you would like to pass on to girl dads about the value of sports for girls and women.
Hmm. Boy, I would just say, I would say don't start too early.
Hmm.
I think that had has the potential to burn out those other than those that are just super into it.
Hmm.
So there's much more potential if they start a little bit later in life. Once they're there, you know, support in every way that you can. Some are going to do more than others. Some are going to coach, which is kind of the ultimate of getting into it. But being there is so important for the kids that are with the young girls that are starting out. Um, make sure that you're standing up for them and making sure that they have the same facilities
Hmm.
and the same equipment and the same opportunities that all the boys do. And I think that's getting better. It's not perfect, but it's
Mm-mm.
really getting better. And there's a lot more awareness around it.
Hmm.
Um, and then just let them play and really try to have fun. The big difference between girls and boys, younger boys and girls that I coached and played with, is that I think the girls had more fun.
Hmm.
I really do. And I'm not quite sure why that is.
Because we're more fun, Dad. Girls
Well,
are more fun.
girls are fun, that's for sure.
Okay, wait, I do have one last one. I have to ask this.
Okay.
So when I finished with mom, I said, all right, because mom was like, I don't understand why you'd want me on this podcast. I didn't play sports, I didn't work in sports. And, obviously she has so much information to share that is valuable for all of us and coming from a generation that didn't have this opportunity. So
Right.
I wrapped up the game with, or the interview with mom asking what sport she would have played if she had had it available to her. I'm not going to tell you what she said. I want to know what sport you think mom would have played.
Oh, did they have pool? Or
You think mom would be like a billiard shark?
yeah, she might be. I don't know about bowling. Probably not.
No, it
Um,
hurts her wrist.
she could have been a pretty good basketball player, I think, if
Oh,
it
you
were
think?
available. Yeah,
Mom said soccer.
she thinks she's so tall anyway that
Oh, she said it in the interview, and I am tall. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that is so funny. All right, you have to tell mom what you said
All right.
at pool.
Okay.
Dad, I love you. You're the best, and thank you for making me always feel like I could do anything I wanted to do.
You're welcome. You've done it, babe. Thank you. Thanks for
Oh,
letting me be on.
yes.